In the last chapter, Hayek showed us something unsettling. When planning becomes comprehensive, truth becomes political. Facts are no longer discovered, they are selected. Chapter 13 moves further. It asks a more uncomfortable question. What kind of people thrive inside such a system? Not foreign dictators, not distant regimes, but the totalitarians in our midst. Hayek argues that totalitarianism does not begin with uniforms and marches. It begins with moral confidence, with the belief that we know what society needs, we know what justice requires, we know what obstacles must be removed. In a planned society, disagreement becomes obstruction, and obstruction cannot be tolerated. So gradually, the kind of person willing to silence dissent becomes useful, not because they are evil, but because they are decisive. This is Hayek's most disturbing insight. Central planning requires unity. Unity requires discipline. Discipline requires enforcement. And enforcement selects for a certain type of personality. Those who hesitate, those who doubt, those who question moral certainty are gradually pushed aside. Those who are comfortable with coercion rise, not necessarily the cruelest, but the most untroubled by force. Hayek's warning is not that democracies instantly collapse. It is that they acclimate, they normalize, administrative expansion, emergency powers, moralized language, suppression framed as necessity. Totalitarian tendencies do not announce themselves, they justify themselves, always in the name of fairness, security, stability, and progress. Once truth becomes political, something else changes. Opposition is no longer disagreement, it becomes irresponsibility. And the person who insists on procedural limits appears heartless. The person who demands unity appears compassionate. That inversion is subtle, but it alters the moral hierarchy. Hayek emphasizes something important. Totalitarian psychology does not belong to one nation. It is not a racial trait. It is not an accident of culture. It is a structural outcome of comprehensive control. If you centralize decisions over economic life, you centralize moral authority. And moral authority, once concentrated, reshapes character. Hayek also turns towards intellectuals, not to condemn them, but to warn that those who believe they see the whole picture are especially susceptible, because they begin to think in terms of necessity, and necessity overrides hesitation. Totalitarianism rarely begins with brutality. It begins with impatience, impatience with inefficiency, impatience with debate, impatience with pluralism. The language shifts from "this may be best" to "this must be done," and once must enters the vocabulary, limits become obstacles. If Chapter 12 showed us that the truth becomes political, Chapter 13 shows us that character becomes political. The system does not just change policy, it selects people. It rewards certainty. It marginalizes doubt. And slowly, without fanfare, the psychological profile of leadership shifts. Hayek's warning is not paranoia, it is caution. A free society depends not only on good rules, but on preserving space for those who question them. The danger is not strong leaders, The danger is a system that no longer needs restraint. Next, Hayek moves to an even harder topic. Can economic planning coexist with democracy, or does it inevitably erode it from within? If you found this chapter unsettling, that is precisely the point.